This episode of ArcaSpeak is supported by Infratech. Bring indoor comfort to outdoor living with Infratech comfort heaters.
This episode is also supported by Enscape, empowering your design workflow by turning your BIM model into an immersive 3D experience.
I get this message from a friend of mine that I've been working with for the past 6.5 years. And we've worked on several projects together and got this good working relationship, both in the office and then just a friendship outside. So, we're always checking on each other, just making sure everything's, we're okay. Because how many times do we ever actually ask ourselves, hey, are you okay?
Right.
And so he's just like, hey, man, I've been working a couple of really late nights and I've seen your little Zoom name is green. When did you log off? And start telling him about just the long, extraordinarily long hours that I've been working just on this particular project, just because of the load demand, the staffing demand, all these different things. And
deadlines. Yeah.
Deadlines, you name it. There's a variety of different things. So he was just like, is everything all right? Everything good? And I paused and I'm just like, I don't know if I know how to answer that positively right now. And it's not a woe's me. It was just what's interesting about this isn't a isolated to just me kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Although I can't speak for my own personal experience of what's going on in my world, but what's going on in my world is very similar to so many people in the profession. Not so many people, almost all of the people in the profession. I've talked to so many people who are talking about just overload, burnout, stress, and everything else. And you had sent me this great article on Monograph, The State of Burnout in Architecture, 2021 edition.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes.
So I've had year 2000 to 2021 editions.
Right.
So it's just kind of interesting. And so it's a great topic to talk about. I mean, here's a quote from that article. The question is, when am I not burnt out?
Yeah.
And I'll totally tell you that I'm living that right now, because you read the article itself and it's just what are the causes of the burnout and things like that. And some people are just well, it's coronavirus has contributed to, but it's not the direct cause. I would say from my own personal experience that in a way it is sort of the cause. And again, I'm going to speak for mine and not really necessarily the article per se. I'll pull up some key points here, but my experience is this. One of the things that I've was able to do pre-COVID was detach from the office.
Yeah. You had a clear separation. You had that commute.
Exactly. So I had my commute in, I had my commute out. I didn't do any work on my commute in. I didn't do any work on my commute out. I detached. I listened to audiobooks. I listened to podcasts. I listened to music. I just open up the window and let the breeze blow through my hair.
Wait, there's outside? What?
There is outside. And that's,
oh man.
And those are things, it's just what's really hard is when work is at home, when work is literally steps away from where you are.
It's there all the time. It is work. Now home is work. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can never get away from it.
Right. And
what's even worse about that is that everybody knows you're there.
Yeah.
So they use this opportunity to I will get pinged. Now, this is just the nature of my particular project I'm working at right now, where it's international and so many different people are on so many different time zones that I get pinged all the time. And so I mute my phone and I put it away from me so that it's not lighting up right next to my head in the middle of the night. But I get throughout the night, I wake up with a sense of dread.
Yeah. You've got a to-do list every day.
Exactly. So the notifications that I get throughout the night and into the wee early morning hours, those go on to the priority list. And I was having this conversation with somebody yesterday. It's just when everything is the priority, what is the priority?
We've talked about that before. Yeah. You can't have 38 priorities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so let me quote a few things that from this particular article, which, I thought were key findings that they were talking about. Nearly all architects, 96.9, experienced burnout in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
The coronavirus did not cause the burnout for architects, but it made it worse for 90% of the respondents. I feel like I fall into that 90%. Working overtime is the leading cause of burnout for architects. And so that's where I feel like, in a way, the coronavirus for me is almost that direct cause of the overtime. Like, would I work as much overtime if I had to be at the office? I mean, I would probably say, okay, if I work 8:30 to 5:30, I may say, okay, here's my rationalization when I was in the office every day. Okay, I already know that everybody and their brother is leaving their office at the exact same time as I am. And so traffic's going to suck. So if I work maybe another hour, it'll actually work out to my benefit because I won't be in traffic as long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, I've worked an extra hour, but I can prioritize that. The phones have stopped ringing. People have gone home. I can really kind of have that, say 2 hours at the end of the day to focus, much like, when I come in a little bit early to try to beat the traffic again. I have a little bit of extra time before people start rolling in that are more local to the office where I can just do some straight focus work. And so I have that opportunity to detach from the office. And I would literally say that when I walk out of the office, that's it. I'm done for the day. I'm not going to be working. I don't walk out of the office anymore. Yeah. So I've literally stopped knowing when the start and stop time of work really is.
Yeah.
I think my day is now made up more of just a series of 15-minute breaks,
But the thing is the work is demanding this amount of attention on your side.
It is.
And that's the problem. It's not like you need the support of your family. You need the support of leadership in the office to help you determine the on-off period because it is changed now that you're on your own at home. But at the same time, it's that isn't happening from the office side because they're the ones directing you to do this project on this time frame with this amount of staff.
Exactly.
And I mean, that is ridiculous, right? Because what pisses me off the most about a study like this is to actually look at the factors that create these problems. And the factors that create these problems go directly against what these companies say, which is our people are the most important part of our firm. But then you see something like this, and that is total bullshit. It is completely false. People are not the highest priority.
No.
The profit is. Or, and you could say that a bunch of different ways. You could say, you know what, we really suffered and we have to make up for it. But what they aren't saying is, man, this next year is going to be really hard. It's really going to suck. We're going to allow you to take actual time off between this project and the next. They're not doing any of that.
Right.
They're just saying, nope, this is the new normal. The new normal is kill yourself for us. And that is who wants to join. I think about the young people who want to come into this. And I see it on various online forums and Facebook groups and stuff where they're complaining about the young professionals who don't know how to do this and don't know how to do that. And how come they're complaining when I tell them that they need to be doing this better or differently? Mm-hmm. And it's how are you actually going to attract the next generation of people to even come into this completely screwed up system?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they say one of the findings in this article is at the very end, burnout happens to all experience levels. It's not just the young people. 96.9% of architects experienced burnout in 2021. That is not saying 96.9% of millennials. It's everybody who works in these offices. And you, I'm pointing at you, Cormac, through the screen. You are experiencing this. And there's levels above you that are experiencing this too.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's so crazy to me that there's no active strategic changes going to the business. It's just do what we did, but do it harder. That's the strategy.
Yeah.
and people are leaving in droves. And
Yeah.
you know as well as I do, everybody's hiring. Everybody's hiring. God,
Yeah.
cruise a LinkedIn feed once in a while.
Exactly.
Everybody's icon says I'm hiring. Everybody's tagline says we're hiring. And that's even outside of architecture who are looking for architects, right? Those are technology companies who would gladly, who work 4 days a week and work 32 hours instead of 80, right?
Right.
To
Right.
still be in the profession, but not in the projects. So it is different, but it's related. And who's not seriously looking at that?
Do you know how many times I've gotten weird cold calls? I mean, like, most of the time I'm like, where the hell are these people getting my number from?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't publish my number,
Right.
but people are like,
They find you
"Hey,"
anyway.
which
Yeah.
somehow they're just like, hey, we saw your, your resume and your experience on LinkedIn and blah, 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 this and that. I'm like, I don't even have the brain power to talk to you people right now. So leave me
Can't
alone.
believe you answer it.
Well, no, I don't. But I don't know. Over the course of the past few years, I've started to follow a lot more architects on Instagram and love to see the creative work and stuff going out there. But half of like at least the last 6 to 8 months of their posts are Evan Troxel Architects is hiring kind of thing. It's
Yes,
just like,
exactly.
where
People are leaving. There's not
exactly.
enough stock. There's not enough stock. There's high demand. There's not enough stock. And not only that, but once you get there, it's like, okay, detail these toilet rooms and
Well, I mean, it's not even
you're
just
on your own.
in a way, it's just not even like the glamour of the project or whatever. It's just the fact that, people are working for a firm that they, went back to the office and people got a little bit more accustomed to working from home or at least having that flexibility. And I've known plenty of firms that, have gone back full force, 100% in office.
Yeah.
And people just don't want that anymore. They've seen the opportunities out there. And so they're like, yes, I want to have the camaraderie of being in the office and talking to people and having that opportunity to kind of like really engage with my teammates on the project. However, I also need that time to just say like, whoa, back off, man. Yes, I understand that you literally just sent me an email and you've walked over to my desk to ask me if I've seen that email.
Yeah.
But give me some breathing space. And so what they've done is like, they will continue to look for that breathing space. And they will say, I don't necessarily want to go back to an office that's 100% full time, or I want that flexibility. And so they'll leave their firm. God, I've heard that story so many times about people who have left for the flexibility of things. They've seen the light at the end of the tunnel. In the end, the light at the end of the tunnel doesn't have to be, as you call it, butt in seats.
Right.
And so if I don't need to be butt in seats 100% of my billable time, well, then let me go ahead and do that. And so people are leaving and they're going to look for other places that are going to allow them to do that. And so,
and remote work doesn't necessarily reduce the burnout, right? Like what you're saying is on some levels, it's made it worse in some ways, but better in others, right? It's just kind of shifted the scales in that regard because it's lowered the barrier for people to get to you whenever they want because we kind of have this always on mentality now. So in that way, it's a negative, but in the positive, like you're saying, like I don't need to drive an hour just to sit in a cube either.
right.
And so what can offices do to attract people to go there for the right reasons? Like to me, that there's some fundamental shifts in why you want to go to an office to do things versus, to achieve the balance that you're talking about, because it's clear that it's not one or the other. There is absolutely no need to drive an hour to go to the office to do the exact same thing that I can do right here. There's no need for that. So there's obviously particular use cases in architecture that make a lot of sense. Like you were talking about collaboration and talking to the team and working through things. And there are definitely resources at offices that can help make that process even better. But beyond that, man, it's hard to say what it is.
Right.
Because you can't go into an office, into a conference room that used to hold 12 people and now it holds 4 because of, space requirements, social distancing and all that crap. That doesn't work. And you have to wear a mask. So is the quality of that meeting really good? Hell no, it's not. It's worse. Absolutely worse. And especially for the people who can't be in that room, now they're the second-class citizen.
Right.
It takes a complete rethinking of how you're going to approach this stuff from a leadership level at these firms. So one of the things they talk about in this is architects needing time off for mental health. Like mental health is the new catch-all phrase for time off, right? I mean, the reason for time off is mental health, but really it's to actually now time off in big podcasting air quotes and mental health are that disconnect from the office that you were talking about getting in the car on a daily basis.
Right. Right. Exactly.
So how much PTO do you have stacked up as like a indicator of, I mean, because we're saying people are overworking. They're working overtime all the time. And overtime, if your business model is dependent on you working overtime, your business model is broken. It 100% is broken. If you can't make enough money in 8 hours a day as a business for each employee, then the business is broken. It cannot demand more than that much time from the employee in a sustained way. It cannot. And so, like, you're probably, because you're working so much overtime, you're just stacking up your PTO.
Yeah. Thanks for calling me out on that.
Well, I mean,
I'll be here. I'll
you've
be
got to
honest.
say it because it gives a real indicator of the problem.
A real indicator of the problem is here we are, and I'll go ahead and just say that we are recording on December 1st, which means that there are 30 more days left of this year. I have 187 hours of PTO remaining.
So you have 4.5 plus weeks.
Yeah.
You can't even use it this
And that's not even including the 2 holidays that we have within the month.
Right.
As well as my 2 floating holidays that I still haven't taken. So that's 4 free days out of that.
And
so,
this is worth real money and beyond that, sanity. Right? And not only that, but your deadlines hit in such a manner that you couldn't take that off if you wanted to. Because that's what it's like to be an architect right now. There is way more work than there are people to do it. Because people who are leading these companies cannot say no. Or set appropriate timelines and staffing for projects for various reasons. Like I'm not trying to totally blame them. Like there's a lot of moving pieces here.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, and I know that we have. So I don't know if we've talked about it on the show or if we've just talked about it. And I know that even my wife just recently sent me a couple of articles about the Great Resignation. So, this is the year where people are quitting. And this is probably this article is a good reason why. And it's not just quitting architecture. It's quitting every job.
Yeah, right.
I mean, my wife is a elementary school teacher and she just had not that anybody's going to be listening to it, but she just had this 30 some odd year old kindergarten teacher because of burnout and stress, essentially retire.
I can't even imagine being a teacher today.
She just decided at the end of Thanksgiving that she ain't coming back.
Just done.
She's done. And, and it was just wow, it's amazing that they could do that. But also it's just holy crap, it sucks that they have to do that.
Yeah. Get to that point, right? Because no one is looking out for them.
And just use that as an example of what is happening in the profession. I mean, we've read, on numerous occasions, and we just highlighted it with this massive crush of people asking for, hey, we're hiring. Everywhere is hiring. Mm-hmm. And even when we are in our Facebook groups that, you and I belong to, where, it's more like sole practitioners or small businesses, that even they are some way, shape, or form hiring, whether it's, hiring contract workers, hiring actual employees. I mean,
right.
People are hiring because everybody wants to do work. I mean, I think you and I talked way in the past about potential boom in businesses of like home renovations, because now everybody wants to create and you did this, create a home office and
Right.
home classrooms
Right.
and, additional like accessory dwelling units that are either going to house their business or, house family members and
Right.
things like that, And it's just crazily happening everywhere that people are just looking for work. And so people are working overtime, working longer hours. I know that that's the same thing. I just realized that.
Yeah.
Maybe I should not work so many hours, and I think you might have said like efficient, workflow and processes can alleviate burnout in architecture. Well, the problem though is that like even with the workflow, the problem is that easy it is to just kind of like get up and log on to your computer and all that other stuff. I honestly feel like workflow is suffering as well because, this, and we've talked about, well, can you overcome not having to have like in office kind of like, looking at you face to face, kind of like, there are ways of like mentoring people online.
Of course. Yeah.
And sure, I agree with that. But there's also just this level of like camaraderie. There's this level of communication. Like I've used the example of when I went overseas to meet with a client face to face, that I got more out of that than I had on almost all of our Zoom calls and Teams calls combined, only because the ability to read their body language. You don't see somebody cringe over like some misplaced door or a room layout that they just don't like when they're online and they don't have their camera on. Yeah. But you do when you're sitting in front of them and you have that conversation with them. And I know I'm kind of all over the board here, but I think all of this is these weird little contributors to this burnout. It's like, there's burnout of like just physically overworking. And then there's just like burnout of the process. Like I'll say that I'm getting a burnout of this process. I would really love to sit in front of someone else and just talk through all of this stuff. Like, have a conversation with them about what is going to make this building a good building instead of trying to like talk through it with them over Zoom when, oh, well, I've my dog's barking and stuff. And so I'm going to keep my, or my internet, I'm getting that internet is unstable. And so, being able to like just sit down every once in a great while. And again, it doesn't have to be every day, but sitting down every once in a great while and just having the conversation with like, hey, how's it going? Like we don't even have chats anymore with people. We just like literally we log on, get to business and then log off.
Right.
I mean, I don't think anybody's like I tried to ask people, hey, how was your Thanksgiving? Crickets. Crickets.
And is it that they don't want to share, or is it that they like? What do you think that is?
I wish I knew.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's a way of saying, that was some me time, and I'm not going to talk about it. Maybe they actually are putting a barrier there that is separating work from life.
But when we were in the office, we'd chat about those things just as a way to kind of like connect with your coworkers and kind of like...
Sure. Yeah, I totally get it. Yep.
And it's probably just the fact that everybody's so burnt out. It's just like, dude, like we've got all these meetings. I don't really want to prolong this meeting any longer by chit-chatting about like my Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I literally just want to like, let's talk about like the loading dock plan and let's just move on. Kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about how so many factors contribute to this burnout, and the repercussions of it, I think, are what are the scariest, right? Because if you just kind of wait and see what happens, you're likely going to lose people.
Yeah.
This takes me back to like conversations about leadership and thinking about how a lot of people kind of glorify the position of leadership, as far as like people looking at leaders, like, oh, they're in the sweet spot and they're not the ones having to work all the billable hours and they don't have to stay late and they don't have to do all this stuff. But true leadership is not just a position that you attain through seniority. There's some great books on it, on actual leadership. One of my favorite ones by Max Dupree is The Art of Leadership. But it really talks about how leadership is a burden True leadership is a burden. And the burden is on the leaders right now to solve this. And that doesn't mean they have to solve it on their own. There are definitely places, online has made this very easy for these people to get together and figure this out together beyond the borders of their own, whatever group they're in at the office, to get out of that echo chamber and go bigger and see what other people are doing and attack this from a professional level, for instance.
Yeah.
But it really is a burden, and the burden is on them to do it because they have accepted the role of leadership. And it's not, you cannot look to your left and your right and say, I thought you were doing that. You can't do that.
Right, exactly.
The buck stops there at the leadership levels. Like, they're the ones responsible to fix this problem as good as they possibly can. And does that mean that they have to be right every time? Absolutely not. But they need to iterate on this design problem for their own business and make it better. And that could be through trial and error. And the error part is learning.
Yeah.
It's a key, important part here. I think, thinking through, it just makes me sad to think about how many people are feeling disengaged and unsupported and burnt out.
Yeah.
It's really a sad state of our industry. And okay, this is 97% of architects out of 225 that were surveyed. It's not a big number, but I'm sure this is very much in line with the whole profession. It's not going to be orders of magnitude off.
Yeah.
Let's take a moment and talk about the sponsor of this episode. Enscape is a leading real-time rendering and virtual reality tool for the global AEC market. It plugs directly into your modeling software, giving you an integrated design and visualization process. With Enscape, you can render in real time and walk stakeholders through your rendered model with incredible ease. Your buildings can be experienced long before they are built. More than 200,000 unique monthly users from over 150 countries use Enscape to envision better designs. To learn more or to sign up for a free 14-day trial, visit enscape3d.com/archispeak today. That's enscape3d.com/archispeak.
In the last few years, premium outdoor spaces have become a must-have architectural feature. And Infratech outdoor electric heating systems have become the brand of choice among leading architects. Infratech heaters provide energy-efficient, ambient warmth that allows homeowners to live outdoors during the cooler months. Clients love them because they can enjoy 100 more nights a year outside. Architects love them because of their unparalleled versatility, from their heater capacities and their colors to mounting options that can either seamlessly disappear or accentuate a space with beautiful decorative coverings. They are also the only comfort heating company that offers smart integration and hands-free voice-activated control. For over 60 years, Infratech has made their products in the USA at competitive prices. They offer incredible design and live technical support at every stage of the job. Infratech is specified at the world's most prestigious properties. Learn why and sign up for a free consultation at infratech-usa.com/podcast. I, for one, appreciate the design options you get with Infratech because as the cooler months approach the Mid-Atlantic region, we're looking to extend those outdoor days, and Infratech heaters provide comfort without being large and in your face. So I was reading a couple of quotes from the article of just people apparently that they had interviewed or talked to. It's just interesting. The basics get dismissed: exercise, eating healthy, sleep.
The basics. The things it actually takes to be alive.
Yeah. Another one was, I can't be around people, even people I love. Another one.
These are actual quotes.
These are actual quotes by people. It's just like, simple tasks have become unbearable. I'll pay $20 to park to avoid walking 2 blocks from where it's free.
Wow. Jeez.
Here's the one that actually kind of makes me sad with all of these is creativity and opportunity feel like a burden. I copy solutions.
Yeah. Because that's expedient, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's being demanded of people when there are not enough hours dedicated to get the work done.
Yeah, and I've heard way too many times where people talk about their creativity is being stifled or, suffering only because they are overworked.
Yeah.
And, I was listening to this one book that I'm recently listening to is from Adrian Newey, the technical engineer for a Formula One racing team. And it's the book is How to Build a Car. And so, me, I listen to like these weird and obscure books or read weird and obscure books that are not necessarily architecturally related, much like you, that aren't necessarily architecturally related, but have this kind of like similar kind of like approach, quality, whatever, as architecture does, where he was talking about basically doing this job and, and like the demands on the job and like overworking himself to the point where he literally lost all creativity. Sitting there having to like design the next year's car for Formula One and basically looking at it as just like, I can't, I don't know where to go next. I'm literally like stuck.
Yeah.
People are feeling that right now in architecture. In that quote, made me think of that quote from him was like, you get to this point where you're essentially staring at the screen so much and that you're overworked and you're not like, able to like get out and do things. So you like literally are like frozen. You're stuck to the point where you literally just can't think of like something new. It's just like, okay, well, this works, it's just like, and so now we're getting a bunch of like architecture that, well, this works. Mm-hmm. And I know that this isn't necessarily everybody. And I know that this, that there are people who have found opportunities and ways to like power through it and really become successful, especially. And then a lot of times, a lot of like, sole practitioners are looking at like, the people who are in offices like, man, I do this every day. And so, everybody's experience is different. Everybody's experience is unique to themselves. And interestingly enough, like all of the people who like say are working like, in big, large commercial firms and stuff like that, they're now starting to experience what like sole practitioners who work out of their house do on a daily basis, which is, I have to learn how to manage my time. I have to learn how to separate that. I think right now we've been thrown from comfort of this 9 to 5 punch in, punch out kind of like time clock kind of thing, where it was managed more or less for us, not necessarily by us. Mm-hmm. And so these are just kind of like inherent practices of being in an office.
Yeah, right.
Whereas like sole practitioners, they're like, my inherent practice is I got to get the job done regardless of what the job is. Right. And so
wear all the hats.
They wear all the hats. And so they've learned how to juggle those hats. They've learned how to juggle all of these different tasks and actually be able to create kind of like a balance that's a little bit different than the balances that we're used to. And so now it's like
different set of trade-offs, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, now it's just, I now just need to figure out how to balance them. Now I've been thrown into this situation. If offices are going to do this kind of like 50-50 blend, or, some are going to be like 100% go back. Some of them are going to continue to do maybe some work from home or at least work from home options. Those are the opportunities that we now have to learn how to manage.
Mm-hmm. I think about this. There's one number they've gotten here. 50% believe a simple thank you from their managers can help build trust, right? And build trust is bold in bold.
Yeah.
Do you see that in your company, or just on a wide spectrum that is helpful and useful? I mean, I go back to that article that I saw in a forum about, somebody basically like, am I the crazy one when I ask my junior drafter to do this, that they check through all the different plans on the thing and make sure that it, it lines up everywhere, and that it, they basically follow the thread and make sure that the change here gets updated everywhere else. And because they didn't do that. And so I'm mad about it. And basically the junior drafter wrote him an email back. It was like, man, I feel degraded all the time. So there's this sentiment, and whether it's real or not, I have no idea. I mean, this is just a snapshot in time and is presented from one side. But do you have a feeling about the sentiment of this, saying thank you? Does it happen? Is it useful? Is it actually helpful in the building of relationships and how important are relationships, because it seems like that's probably one of the bigger downsides to everybody working remotely is just the relationship. Like you've talked about it, right? The lack of relationships is definitely a factor.
I try. I really do try to make sure that I acknowledge and have the conversation with them. At the very least of just say, look, I appreciate like all the hard work and all the extra effort that you've been putting into it, because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to like get this stuff done without like the extra hours that you put in. Mm-hmm. And not all the time do I do that, and I know that that's like an improvement that I need to. But it is definitely something, because like not all the time do I get the attaboy kind of like pat on the back, and I just am more stuck in this world of like, here's the job, just do it, shut up, heads down kind of thing, and do it. And it does. I totally agree with them that it does kind of weigh heavy on them. That it's just like, I would like to have at least a thanks every once in a great while kind of thing. And so it makes sense to me to have that conversation with them. Is like, would I have loved to have been thanked when I was a junior, like an architect in training, or what were we? We were just called interns. Would I have loved to have just had that conversation with them of just like, let's talk about everything? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I would love to. And, you can see that I'm kind of like, I came from a weird world that it was just like heads down, shut up, do your job, be thankful that you had a job kind of thing. But that's not really where we're at right now. And that's not even where I'm at right now. I was just like, wow, did we really treat ourselves that poorly when we were, coming up?
This is another sign to me of not being able to change with the times. It doesn't matter how it used to be, I don't think. It's what's required now is what matters.
Yeah.
And different generations and different people are going to have different requirements. But it's important to understand that they do have different requirements, and that a leader's job is to figure out what everybody's language is that they need to thrive. And you can't treat everybody the same. And so when I see that happening, I just think like, when I was walking uphill both ways to school through the snow kind of a talk, I didn't need that. And it's like, okay, and they are not you. That to me is very important to recognize on an individual by individual basis. And it doesn't mean that you have to find so I'm kind of two minds. You do have to find that out. The job is on the leader to figure that stuff out. But if you're not the leader, you can also make it known what you need. That will make it easier for the leader to find that stuff out. There is a two-way street here for sure. It's not, the onus is not all on one party or the other. But I would also say err on the side of the positive and just do that stuff. Do it, because it does make a difference. It's like you have to figure out the strategies for success. This is one of those strategies that kind of applies across the board. And if it doesn't, I mean, at least you're erring on the positive side, and you are giving the praise and the recognition for the work that's being done. And if they're not worthy of receiving that, you have to figure out how to get them to the point where they are. You hired them. Or just fire them. Like, you've got to figure that out. Again, the onus on that part of it is on the leader once again.
Yeah.
I see like there's this whole thing about burnout stuff, but we keep coming back to this on the show, man. It is a serious lack of leadership. And leadership is a skill. Like, it is something that can be learned. That, I think, is the most important takeaway from this. If we want our profession to be in a better place, we have to lead. We have to roll our sleeves up and figure this out. It's not going to happen on its own. And there is plenty of resource available to help make that happen. You've got to just do it. There's no two ways about it. You've got to figure that out. And if you think you're a good leader, I think you should ask a bunch of people around you if they think you're a good leader and get that feedback. If you have cultivated relationships that are valuable, you should be able to get that feedback without fear of reciprocity, right? Like, you should be able to, hopefully, if you have real relationships, actually get genuine feedback there. And those are the best relationships to have. That's my wife and I have that relationship. And I'll say, man, I'm really feeling this. And she'll be like, well, that's because you're not good at that, right? Like, she'll be brutally honest.
Yeah.
But that's what is required for growth. It's a crappy article and a crappy thing, but it's real. Like, this is a thing that we have to deal with in this industry, or this industry just won't survive. And if it survives like this, it doesn't deserve to.
Right.
I mean, that's, to me, is the reality of it.
Totally agree with you.
So you have to ask, does the profession deserve to survive this? And I think, there's a lot of people who could probably balance that in, completely opposite ways. Yes or no. Like, there's a lot of people out there complaining. There's a lot of people who are really bullish on it. But this has to be like a consensus. Does it deserve to survive or not? And we have a say in that. We just have to step up to the plate and actually do it. And like we talked about on the last episode, getting our head above water and surveying the whole landscape and saying, is this what we want it to be? And are we headed in the right direction? Because I think so many times we're so heads down. We're so deadline driven. Like, this is the life of an architect, and that we rarely actually do that. And man, the constant call to action at the end of the year, where it just seems like bad news after bad news, is you said it earlier in a better way than I can, but like get your head out of your ass and do this, man. Like, there's no better time. This needs to happen yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks to Enscape for their support of this episode. Visit enscape3d.com/Archispeak today for a free 14-day trial.
Thank you to Infratech Outdoor Comfort Heating for their support of this episode of Archispeak. And remember, you can visit Infratech at infratech-usa.com/podcast. To sign up for a free consultation, learn why Infratech is the choice for bringing indoor comfort to outdoor living.
Thanks for listening. This show is part of the Gable Media Podcast Network. See all the shows at gablemedia.com. That's GABLMEDIA.com. You can help support what we're doing here by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts to help get the word out, and don't forget to share it with your friends. We'd love to hear from you, so leave a comment on the website at archispeakpodcast.com, where you can find our entire catalog of shows. Talk to you soon.